Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. I'm Amit and this is Sansa Technology, your trusted partner in mastering Python, machine learning, AI and beyond. At Sansa, we have been empowering students and professionals since 2008 with hands-on real-world training designed to bridge the gap between theory and practical skills. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you can never miss any coding challenges and tutorial. I plan to publish them every week. And with that, let's get started. So the first thing I'll show you is the actual coding challenge content. For that, you go to our website, sansatechnology.net, go under events and meetups. I'm also be sharing this link directly with you as part of the description below, so you can find them directly. But this is how you can find the future coding challenges. So for this week, I have three sections for this. I have a Python beginner level, I have Python intermediate level, and I have machine learning data processing. So the first thing first. So first we look at palindrome checker. This is the first question, and it's pretty straightforward if you have done any programming. If you have not, then you probably need to look at how to work with the string in Python. So here the idea is writing a Python function that checks if a given string is palindrome, like madam, M-A-D-A-M, like reverse and front is same, so it's true, hello is false. So the first code here, and I'll show you a few style of writing it here so you can get an idea, what suits you. So for this or any Python coding, I am a big proponent of using object-oriented programming language style writing. So here I'll put a class for palindrome checker, and I will have the methods or functions that will be doing the actual work. Many times you can also write these functions without putting in a class and you can test them directly, but that's like very simple novice style of writing. I will encourage you to write your functions inside a class. So here the first thing, class. So I have defined a class called palindrome checker. It has constructor, you can see double underscore init underscore. This is a constructor, not really doing anything special in this situation. And I've created two methods here. One is check palindrome without inbuilt function and check palindrome with inbuilt function. So you can see both styles. So let's do the simple one first. Check palindrome with inbuilt function. Here, I'm passing the input string. And the way I'll pass, for an example here, I'll say check palindrome. So the object name checker equals palindrome checker, object dot function name check palindrome with inbuilt function, and I'll pass string hello or madam. So my input string is going to be hello or madam here, and when it comes, I'll look at the string by itself, and I also will look at, so when you do this in Python, you will be getting the reverse of the string. So I'm checking here if the string by itself and the reversal of it, if it's not same, then they're false, right? In case of hello, like the reverse of hello will be, let's say OLLEH, which is of course not same as hello. So this will return as false. Otherwise, you return as true. And so this is the simple one, right? So likely when you go for interviews, the expectation will not be just to use an inbuilt function. They might even say do not use an inbuilt function and try to do the palindrome. For that, you will come here. So this method, check palindrome without inbuilt function, again, if you have worked with class and objects and functions in Python, you know that you're passing the first parameter itself to give indication that's part of the this class itself, and then you're receiving another parameter here, input string. So what I have done, I have taken that input string. When you pass it to the list function, you get the input character list. So in this case, let's say if you passed in madam, this will become character M a typo here, just ignore that for a second. And of course this is in Python, it's a hash. So this will break the string like this all the way till the end. Right, so, and once I have this, then what I'll do is I'll iterate through the list. And the idea really here is that I will look at the first character here, and I'll also look at the last character. If they both are same, it's fine. But if they're not same, then this definitely is not a palindrome. And then, then I go to second letter here, and then I compare to the last, second from the last, and so on. So you can see the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting the list length, and in this case it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The value I'll get is 5. And I'm saying for I from 0 to length minus 1, because it's a 0 based, so you have index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so it goes from 0 to 4. And I get the ith value, so input char list, I get the ith value, in this case it will 0, and then input char list length is 5 minus 0 minus 1, 4. So I'm getting this character. If they are not same, then it's false, then we break out a loop. And if it goes through the entire thing, and if it doesn't find anything false, then it's returning true. And that's the basic idea here. So look at this and try to see if you can write this code by yourself, or if you have another comments or suggestions, just put a comment below in this video. And then validation. So validation you can really do two ways, and there's a simple one and there's a right way. So I'll show you both of them. So first is direct method invocation. So if you have a method or function, you call that directly. So you have palindrome checker is the class, so you create an object checker equals palindrome checker. Doesn't take any parameters constructor, so which is fine. Then I'm calling checker.check palindrome without inbuilt function. I pass hello, I pass madam. I also am doing the same with the other function with inbuilt function hello and madam, and see what the output will be. And you can see the outcome is, if it's hello is false, if it's madam is true, if it's hello, false, true. You could have made some other enhancements. For example, what happens if this is capital M, right? So madam, it's not even capital M. So in that case, you can also convert your list to a lowercase before you build the array here. But then you need to check with your interviewer, what are they expecting? Are they expecting you to make sure that the case sensitivity is also considered or not? Okay, so with that, that's a simple one. But the right way for all these programming languages is some kind of testing framework. And Python has many, right? So I have used IPyTest here, and here I'm creating two test functions. So the way you do, we first import IPyTest and create this auto configuration so it knows how to run. And then really important here, so you will create a test method, but make sure that it starts with the prefix test underscore, otherwise this will not be picked up when you're trying to run the test case here. So test underscore, you can give any name, but I like to give it the function name I'm trying to test. So test underscore check palindrome without inbuilt function. And here, I'm doing let's look at this one here. So checker.check palindrome without inbuilt function hello. We expect this to return false. So I'm saying assert not false, meaning this assert will become true. So in case of false, I'll say assert not that false condition. If it's true, then I say assert the true condition. So this assert is saying that it's asserting that this statement is true. It is true here, and the hello is not palindromes is false, but not false will become true. So this way it's asserting the effective expression is true. And same I'll do for test check palindrome with inbuilt functions. I'll run it, and to run this test cases, no module name IPyTest, and this is because I wrote this code on my other environment in Cursor, and I'm writing this in Anaconda. So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to install. If you probably will get the same. I'm glad that we got this issue, so you can also see how to fix it. So it's basically saying that IPyTest is not found. To install it, you basically say exclamation pip install ipytest. You can also do that from your terminal or command prompt. So let it run. It might take a few seconds, and that will install your ipytest for this environment. And once you have it, then you will be able to run this ipytest run, and when it runs, you'll say 2 passed in 0.05 seconds. So it's collecting ipytest, it installed it. Let's see, and now you go and run this, and 2 passed. And if it fails, for example, and let me just create that situation for you, so you can say, let's say I somehow, this did not work, this method was wrong, right? And if I write the bad assertion, it'll come back and say, oh, this method has failed. Like for example, say assert not checker palindrome with inbuilt function madam is assert not true. It will say is complain about it. So that way you know the code you've written, it works or does not work. And many times when you're taking this online interview coding test, you will notice that they have built this unit test functions for you, or you might have write that like in front of them, and then you will see if your test case is running or not. So this is the first, number one, palindrome checker. What I showed you here was creating a class which has two methods or functions. Check palindrome without inbuilt function, and second a check palindrome with inbuilt function. And then I showed you how to validate it. There are two ways. A simple one where you call the object and the function and you print it. And the second, the real way or the good way really would be putting it in some kind of unit testing framework like ipytest. And here we created two methods, one for test, check palindrome without inbuilt function. Make sure you always prefix test underscore, and the same for the other one. And I run them, and you can see the both test cases are passing. So that was our first situation, the first code. Let's go to the second one now. The second one here is factorial function. Implement a function that finds the factorial of a number using iterations or recursion. Example, factorial 5 is 120. So what I have done here, I have written both style. I have given two methods, one with recursive, and I have also written with non-recursive. So first thing, like I have a class called factorial builder, which has a function called get factorial recursive. I take self and also the input number I pass, and the idea is I'll get the factorial value back. For example, let me show you here. So if I say factorial dot get in the function name 5, I'll get the value 120. So for recursive, you have to be careful, right? So recursive, the way recursion will work, factorial of n is really the number itself multiplied with the n minus 1 multiplied n minus 2 till all the way I go to 1. And you also know that factorial of 0 is 1 by your basic mathematics or high school maths. So here factorial builder, get factorial recursive. So what I'm doing is if input number is 0, then return the value is 1. Otherwise, take the number I have, the input number, like if I pass 5, for example, 5, multiply with this method again is a recursive, and then multiply with this a lower number, 5 minus 1, 4. Let me take a smaller number so it makes more sense. So let's say inbound is 3. 3 is not 0, of course, so nothing happens here. So factorial is 3 multiplied with get factorial recursive, 3 minus 1, that's 2. It calls itself, and then 2 is here. Again, 2 is not equal 0, so it comes back here. 2 multiplied with 1, it goes back here, then it comes back 1 multiplied with factorial of 0, and now it says okay 0, it returns 1. So if you think about the chain, it will be 3 first time multiplied with 2 multiplied with 1 multiplied with 0. Try to write this yourself. It's simpler than it looks. So try to put in your own implementation, and only key thing will be you need to know when to terminate, right? And you need to terminate when the value becomes 0, so you can return 1. The second, non-recursive, really simple, right? So I'm saying if I get number 5 then I will go multiply 1 with 2, with 3, with 4. So I'm saying, okay, factorial for I in range 1 to input number plus 1. So if I pass 3, let's say, so it will go to 1, 2, and 3. That's why I'm saying input number plus 1, because it will stop, when the threshold is hit. And the factorial initial is 1, so it will factorial multiplied with 1. So it will be first time, if it's 3, 1 multiplied with, so let's say, so I pass 3 here, factorial is 1. Let me add a comment here. So factorial will be 1 multiplied with 1 in the first pass, right? And then second time the value was, this is 1, then 1 multiplied with 2. And the third time this is multiplied with 3. And that's the answer. That's what we're looking for. The answer is 6, and this will give the factorial value. So, and again, for testing, validating, very simple. I created the object, called the, calling the method or function, and passing my argument 5 here. And I'm expecting values to be 120, and that's what I'm getting. And on the IPy test, the same here, right? So I created a new 2 methods: test get factorial recursive and test get factorial non-recursive. And for the first one, because look, assert is doing a true or false, so I'm saying I'm expecting the value is 120, and this is my actual invocation. If they're same, then my assertion is true, and the same for 4, 24. So this is my testing, and you can see when it runs, it will be saying 2 passed. So that was factorial function. Again, like 2 things we did here. We build a class and it has 2 methods: get factorial recursive, get factorial non-recursive, and then we call them via directly or via a testing framework. And I think in my opinion, you should start getting used to writing the test case for your implementation, because in the real life, when you go to industry, you'll be required to write test cases for your work, and this will prepare you in that direction. All right, number 3, vowel counter. Write a Python program that counts the number of vowels in a given string. Example, hello world is 3. 1, E is 1, O is 2, and then another O is 3, right? So let's go to vowel counter here. So the vowel counter here is, I have, made it case insensitive, and the reason I'm and there are multiple options multiple ways you can do it. So again, I like to create a class and a function. So count vowels. Here you pass input string, and the vowel list is A, E, I, O, U. That's the list I'm defining. Initial counter is 0 when I have, this is the initialization where I'm saying this value of counter is 0. I take my string and then put the character list, and then I'm iterating through the character list here. So here, because my list is my characters are lowercase, so I'm converting my character to the lowercase, and then I'm checking. So I'm saying if this in vowels list, then I increase the counter by 1. Very simple. And then the same thing, I print it using the direct method invocation, or I put this in my PyTest, where I'm asserting the value is 3, and that passes. So please write this. I will also share the code with you, but see if you can write this. It's a pretty standard code. All right, number 4, and now it's becoming, the last 3 were really beginner level, and this is a little bit a tricky list rotation. So here I'm saying implement a function that rotates a list k times to the right. Example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and k equals 3. So you're going 3 times. The first time when you rotate, it will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. You rotate that list again, it will be 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Rotate one more time, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. That's what the final outcome is. And there are many ways you can write this. I think my order is a little bit different in this file name, so I'll just jump here. So first, There are many ways you can write this. If let's say the way, I mean, you can make an implementation where you're shifting, rotating one at a time, or in my case, to optimize this, what I've done is like, I know k equals 3, or k equals like whatever that number is. So if I do k equals 3, the outcome will be I take this first three elements and put at the end. If k was less than 2, then I'll do, the answer will be 3, 4, 5, and at the end I'll have the list 1, 2 appended. So I am first building list to be appended, and that's input list colon rotation steps, meaning rotation step is saying the value k, like how many times I need to rotate. So I'm saying, okay, the input list, if you're telling me 3, then I want to get the first 3 elements, 1, 2, 3 here, and in Python you write like colon and that value, which is number 3 here. So I get the list to be appended. But now I also need to delete 1, 2, 3, right? Because I want to get the 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, because I will append this at the end and I'll get rid from the front. So I'm saying delete input list, the rotation, like from beginning to the rotation step I've asked for. So input list colon 3 in this example. So this will delete 1, 2, 3. And then, so at this time, really input list is looking like only 4 and 5. Then I say input list dot extend, I'm gonna be appending 1, 2, 3 at the end. And I'm saying input list extend by what? But the list that needs to be appended, that is like, colon 3, and return input list. And again, like, as we talked before, I have implemented a direct call. List rotation is the class name. So I created an object called list underscore rotation, and I'm calling that rotate list, and you can see the value. And you can see that the test will run, and that like passes. And the other reason, like, just to reiterate why you need to create a class and function and method, because in real life you want to do the unit test cases, and the unit is nothing but that function. And if you do not have a unit, what do you really do when unit testing? So a real ideal style of writing code will be with a class and a function. So you can do unit test, you can put a continuous integration, put Jenkins or whatever tool you use, and you can do this continuous deployment and continuous integration. Okay, perfect. So let's go to the next one here. Next one is flattened nested list, and this is a really interesting one. So let's say if you have list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So like, here you have 2 elements in this array. The first array list is 1, 2. Another one is 3 and 4, 5. So if you think about this element itself, it has 2 items. The first is like an element, like by itself 3, but the second part is like an array of 2 elements, 4, 5. But the idea is like you need to inflate this and then flatten this, and you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So think about this, like, and how would you really write this, right? And in this example, I made it even a little bit more complex, just like to show you another idea, because you can think, oh, I can have 2 elements, and I can say, looking at this example, you might think, oh, I can have only maximum 2 elements. But here I'm adding another element, which has 3 elements inside. So 6, the first element. Second element is an array of 7 and an array, and that array has like 5, 8, right? So I want, in this case, 1, 2, 6, 7, 5, 8, 3, 4, 5. That's the answer. And always feel free to pause this video so you can look at this example, understand how would you approach this. And the idea is, is simple, right? So, I was having an issue here, so I was like trying to figure out why this was not working, and this is the comment is coming from there. But the idea is that, in fact, let me just leave it here. List is already a type. In fact, so okay. What I'm doing here is that I have a method of flatten that takes a nested list like 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 5, 8, 3, 4, 5. And the list to return is this empty list here. And I'm saying for item and nested list, If this list was just an element, like by itself, right, then I want to add this to the flattened list. But if it's a list like this 1 and 2, then I want to process it further, and this will become like a little bit clear here. So I'm saying if the item, so look here, so I have nested list. I'm saying for item and nested list. So the moment I say for item and nested list here, in the first pass this will give me these three things, like item is 1 2, second item will be 6 7 5 8, like of course with the dimensions, and the third item will be 3 4 5. So let's say it's 1 2. Eventually when I break it apart, when it becomes just 1 or 2, then I should say if this item, let's say 1, is of type so the other way, if it's part of the if it's still a list, right, like 1 2 1 2, then I want this flattened list to be extended, which is empty, by what, like by calling self flatten item, like I'm recalling this again. So in this case I called with a list of value 1 and 2, and then otherwise if the list already has like broken into, let's say, value 1, then I will just go and append this. So let's see now. So I pass this one the first time. I have value 1 2, the list 1 2, right? So here I'll look at, is 1 2 is type of list? Yes, it is, right? So because we are, let me copy, write it here. So the first item here turned out to be 1 and 2. So I'm saying, is this list of type list? I could have just done list. So the answer is yes. If it is, then I'm calling this item again. So I'm saying, okay, call this list again. The second time when it comes in, so now the value of nested list is really 1 2. Right? When I say for item in nested list, so now the value, I have like individual value, like 1 and 2. So the first value 1 item is saying, is it of type list? No. If it's not, then I'm going to be appending this to my empty list. So now the flattened list will turn out to be basically this plus 1, right? So that will be 1. And now it goes second element, the same thing, like it's not a list, it's just a value, so it gets appended there as well. And from there it goes to the second element now, because there's nothing else to process, so like it goes to the next in the loop. So now we are processing 6 7 5 8. So here again, like if you break it, you are your elements are like 6 7 and like 2 elements here, 6 7 5 8. So when it says that, okay, is 6 an element? Yes. So you add 6 here. When you come to the next element here, right, so you see 7 5 8, is it part of list? Yeah, it is part of list. So you send it again for further processing, and this continues, and eventually you'll get the list is 1 2 6 7 5 8 3 4 5, and this is the basic logic here. So I will remove this comment, or that's okay, like if it helps you go through it. And then to validate, yes, I take this and I pass it, and I get 1 2 6 7 8 1 2 6 7 5 8 3 4 5 as the answer. And again, like for every code you write, I really strongly encourage you to write a unit test case with it. And here the same thing, like what's the nested list I'm passing this. And I the previous ones, here you saw I was writing like assertions like right here, but this code is going to be a little more complex, meaning there are multiple variables and the big list is like getting passed, so I'm putting them in variable. Nested list is this, and so the actual, when I call, I'll get a value and I'm expecting this value, then I'm saying assert actual equals expected, and that will pass. I would love to see how you wrote your code, and if you had different implementation, I would love to know. Please add a comment below, and I plan to publish like list like this every week, so please subscribe, ring the bell icon, so you can see yeah, more examples. And last two here, machine learning, data pre-processing. I have z-score normalization. So here the z-score in machine learning is really data itself minus mean divided by standard deviation. That's the z-score. And this is used a lot when you are working with your features, because you want to normalize them, because some of the numbers can be big, some can be small. So like z-score normalization or min-max normalization, they're used to get numbers in a range. And min-max normalization, the scaled value will be the current value minus the minimum divided by the maximum minus minimum. It makes sure that the value is scaling between 0 to 1. Okay, so let's go to z-score normalization. So here, first thing, if I import numpy as np, if you do not have numpy, let's say, then what you need to do is you need there are multiple ways you can do it. You can do this command prompt, or you can say pip install numpy. I have it, so I do, like, even if I run it, like, it doesn't really do much. Okay, so coming back to the code here, so the expectation, again, data minus mean divided by standard deviation, right? So let's say if I input 1.0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the output based on this formula really will be 1 minus mean of these numbers divided by the standard deviation, and that approximately will be 1.41. Like, this is the array here. So the first thing I'll do is, like, because I am dividing with a value, so I'll say if the denominator is 0, then throw an exception, raise an exception or error. Otherwise, then compute the value. So, like, I am, let's see, first let's go inside, like np.subtract. I'm subtracting data minus the mean of that input data, right? Because this is the goal here. The goal is to compute data minus mean. And the second part is, I need to divide. So np.divide. What am I dividing with? Is standard deviation, which you have computed here. So that will give you return z data. And again, like, I have a class and I have a function to go through it. To validate, you create the object, call it, and see what value you get. This should be close to what you're expecting. Or you can just mathematically compute. Like, you can take a calculator or Excel sheet and you can calculate if you have to see, like, if the values are correct. But then on the actual test case here, I have, again, like, a test get normalized z-score. Expected is the value I got in the previous step, and then actual is this implementation. Z-score, the object minus method, object dot method, and then you pass the list, and then you get the values. So here you'll see a little bit different, like, syntax than what you've seen before. The previous syntax you saw really was around equating, like, so you say, this is what is actual and this is what I'm expecting, like, and then you equate them and then you get a Boolean value. But in the case of arrays, there are many more values you need to compare. You're comparing all values. I mean, you can do also any value, but for in this example, I'll make sure that every value coming back in this one, any value coming back is, like, matching. So I'll say np.all close. They both are close, actual and expected, and you can put a tolerance, like how much tolerance, like, is like e to the power minus 5. So I can tolerate a little bit of, like, different, because these numbers, like, there's a lot of approximation and things like that, and where you run and what type of hardware you have and how many bits. So I have, like, a little bit tolerance for the numbers to be a little bit different, or maybe let's say you in place of this you would have written, like, a whole number. So that helps you with that process, and then you run it, and then this passes. So very straightforward. So again, just to recap, I have a class z-score normalization, I have a method get normalized z-score, and then I check expected and actual values. All right, and now Let's go to our last one. The numbers are a little bit out of order here, but it goes. And if you're wondering where you can find the future coding challenges, I plan to update this every week, every Friday, US time, Friday and US Pacific time, just to be more precise. You go to our website, Sansa Technology, where you can see all the courses and like what's starting, like when we start classes every 2 weeks. In fact, there's a class starting today, new batches. Then you go to events and meetups. We have um, every Friday orientation on new classes which you can join. There are meetups. The next meetup is on April 3rd. I'll encourage you to join. It's very effective and very informative session. And then you go to weekly coding challenges here. You click on the challenge link that loads. And like next week you'll see coding challenge number 2, or in future 3 or 4 or whatever, whenever you are. And then I also have a link here where you can see, let's see, the coding challenge, the archive. You will be able to see all the coding challenges, and then solution is like a link to the YouTube channel you're looking at. So the last one is min-max normalization, and the way you normalize is the value itself minus minimum of it divided by max minus min. So again, here I created a class min-max normalization. I have a method get normalized min-max, takes input data, because there are many things happening, right? So there's a numerator, denominator, so I decided to like write them separately so the code is more readable. So np.subtract input data minus np min input data, and data is like 10, 20, 30, 40, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the use case here. And denominator, same, np max minus min, and then you divide and you return it. So let's run this. And when I run it, you can see the values are between 0 to 1. And when you see here the last one, they are like 0 is the mean, and then the value is going above and below. But in this case, min max, the idea is to settle between 0 to 1. And then and machine learning, you can use any of these like min max or the z-scaler, but you have to be consistent with your feature you're working on. Okay, and here like test get normalized z-scores. In fact, this one needs to be, I mean, I could call this like whatever you call, but just to be correct, I want to call it test get normalized min max. And then I'm expecting the value 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.751, and the actual value is, this is what I'm passing. And I'm saying NP all close, actual expected, within threshold of e to the power minus 5. And then I run. And you can see this goes well, and it runs. And what I have done here, again, just to recap, I have a class, I have a function that returns normalized min max on the formula x minus x min and x max minus x min. And then I have written 2 direct print methods here, one direct print, another one is via the unit test case, which is this is the way you should do. I hope you liked what I showed today. Thanks for watching. And if you want to participate in this coding challenge, please again go to our website, look at the challenge events and meetups, sansatechnology.net. Go to events and meetups, and then go look at the challenge. Even if you're new professional or experienced, we all get so busy in our daily life, we sometimes do not spend enough time coding. So this will definitely help you get better from where you are. And if you're a beginner, still read a good book or contact us, or you're professional, contact us. We have great training programs in AI, ML, Python, and we're starting classes every 2 weeks. Yeah, reach out to us. I'll see you next coding challenge. Thank you again. Keep learning and keep coding. Thank you very much for your time.